So Jordan Peterson is this very famous person who is a very prominent psychologist and a very great speaker. And in one of his speeches, he mentioned that in his clinical practice, a woman, a patient of his, was stuck in a scheme of moronic bureaucracy at her workplace. So what happened was this woman worked at a very big international corporation, and she was driven mad by the political correctness that was happening in the organization. And one of the examples of the political correctness that she was facing was exemplified in a 32-page email letter, 32-page email exchanges that was circulating around the organization. And the email exchange was about a topic about flip chart, because apparently there were a lot of people in the organization that were not comfortable about the use of word flip chart, because apparently the word flip can also be used as a pejorative term for Filipinos, for people in the Philippines. And people at that organization were concerned, at least some of the people at that organization were concerned about the potential offense it can cause to the Philippines, the Filipinos. Now, obviously, it would be hard pressed to find even one Filipino who actually cares about the word flip chart being potentially offensive to to his fellow countrymen. So you have all these people at that organization, instead of trying to have a life and actually do their job, they were so concerned about the word flip chart rather than doing anything useful. And this fact was driving this client, this woman, mad. And eventually, the people at that organization did decide to rename this term to something that is less offensive, apparently. And they made it part of the company policy that the word flip chart can no longer be used. It is not it is inappropriate to use the word flip chart. And the reason Jordan Peterson was telling this story was he wanted to remind you that when you find yourself embedded in bureaucracies, what happens is you're going to find people asking you to do stupid and downright ridiculous things. And the fact that they're asking you to do stupid and ridiculous things is going to do two things. Well, actually, three things to you. One, one of the things it will do to you is it will warp you. It will change you as a person so that you pretend you agree with them. And eventually you will become just like one of them. You will change your soul to become one of them, to be agreeable. And another thing it will do to you is it will demotivate you, because It makes you wonder what is the point of slaving away at this job when you are literally being picked to death by morons with stupid rules. And the third thing it will do to you is it will make you resentful. It will make you an overall bad person. It will kill your positive energy, and it will undermine your motivation and make your life miserable. So you might wonder, well, what should I do if I were to encounter things like that? Well, the first thing to do is you should object. You should push back at the earliest possible point. And the benefit of doing that is people realize the fact that they are being radically stupid for pushing those things down your throat and making you part of them. And when you push back, they will usually back off because these people usually don't know. They don't have a lot of people stand up against them. So they don't know what to do when people do stand up to them. And they will usually back off and they won't torture you to death. But like all things, if you push back, you bear a risk, right? You are taking a risk. But it's one of the things that you are you are damned if you do, and you are damned if you don't. So if you complain, it will definitely cause some trouble. Although it usually causes way less trouble. It causes way less trouble than the other way around, which is to put up with them. Because people are usually not that courageous, and if you push them with some strength, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to behave when they're being challenged. And the reason it is important is any organization, when they are above a certain size, whether it is a government entity, whether it's a corporation, whether it's an institution, whether it is a non-profit organization, anything when it's above a certain size, bureaucracy destined destined to happen, and it tends towards this totalitarian structure. And this is something that is bound to happen. So if you work in this kind of organization, if you are part of this kind of organization, you want to keep it alive, you want to keep it dynamic, you also want to keep it a place where sensible and reasonable people can stand to work there. And the answer to that is you need to say no to do things that you know are stupid. Stand up to these things and say, look, I understand this is dumb, I'm not doing it. And if they ask you why, you can say, well, I think it is stupid. It is not within my value system. And if you do get forced to do it, you will get irritated and become resentful, and it will decrease your motivation. So you're not doing it. And if they push too hard, it might be time to look for another job because there are plenty of other jobs out there. And especially when you already have a job, it is usually easier to get another job when you're already in a job. So, just get the hell out of there and find something else. It is not that hard. And that brings another point, which is especially in the world we're in today, when jobs are relatively uncertain, There's really no such thing as job security. You should always, no matter how good you think your job is, no matter how much you love your job, you should always have an escape route planned. And it should be active. You should be actively looking for other opportunities all the time. Because if you don't have an escape route planned and you don't have any you don't have any leverage to pull when such things happen, you are in a very passive position. You can't say no, you can't get away. And if you can't say no, you can't bargain, right? And if you can't bargain, you are essentially a slave. So if your inner being, if your personality is telling you something is dumb, you should not be doing it. And when someone is forcing you to do, you are objecting to it from the bottom of your heart, then you are probably right. It is probably something you shouldn't be doing. And that is why a lot of people suffer because they don't have the opportunity, they don't have the option to say no, and they don't have an escape route planned. And they have to do things that they know are stupid, something that they know demotivates them, something that they know irritates them, something that they know are stupid. And that is why people are suffering, because they know they are living a meaningless life, a life where they don't have any leverage to pull. And you know, if you do these things too much, if you do these things that you know are stupid too much, it makes you vengeful. It makes you a terrible person. So it's really important to understand your temperament. A lot of jobs these days are a combination of intelligence and conscientiousness, but also temperament is becoming increasingly an important thing. It plays a moderating role. For example, extroverted people tend to be um, tend to be good at jobs that demand a lot of communication, public speaking. So a position in sales might be suitable for an extrovert individual, whereas for an introvert, it might be more appropriate or it might be more conducive to their personality or their temperament to work in a role that is more solitary in nature. Or if you are an agreeable person, then you should, you know, uh, maybe a job taking care of people might be more suitable for you. Whereas if you're more disagreeable, then a a career in the bargaining field where you are constantly arguing with people, you're constantly picking on people, so something like a litigator or a lawyer might be more suitable for you. If you are conscientious, then a position in the managerial or administrative role might be more suitable for you. And if you are a creative person, if you are high in openness, you're constantly thinking of ways, coming up with new ideas, then maybe a path of entrepreneurship might be more suitable for you. And these traits, the creativeness and openness, these traits tend to be of less utility when you are when you are first starting out in your career, when you are at the at the bottom of the hierarchy. Because when you're at the bottom of the hierarchy, you are more or less seen as a more of a functionality than a leadership role. Whereas, but if as you progress in your career and you move up the hierarchy towards the top end of the hierarchy, then the quality of creativity and openness and entrepreneurship will become more and more crucial because in complex positions, in some of the top positions, um, you know, things are changing very, very dynamically, and you need to have a very high intelligence and the ability to steer the organization in the correct direction. So, a very good rule of thumb is if you if you dread going to work, and if you're working hard and doing things you are supposed to do, but you are not being rewarded appropriately and correspondingly, and there's no chance for career advancement, then I would say that is a good sign to leave the organization. That is a good reason to leave the organization. I know a lot of a large the majority of my audience out there is um, are entrepreneurs, and so what I've done is what I think is critically important these days is the importance of online presence for a business, because as we move more and more online, the online landscape begins to change, and it is so essentially there are two parts to any businesses. There is the traffic part and there's the conversion part. And when it comes to traffic part, a lot of people don't know what to do, because in the offline world, they know how to acquire clients. They have the traditional way of marketing. They have the traditional way of doing sales. They have a stable customer base. They have their own um, sort of a sort of a customer group. But as they move into the online world and they begin to acquire new customers, they they usually come up against great difficulties, because they don't know what to do in the online world. They don't know how to acquire clients in the online world. So what I've done is I've put together a very, very simple guide, but very valuable guide, about some of the strategies that would help you acquire clients more easily in the online world, as well as easily and cheaply in the online world. I've put the link to download that guide in the description down below. I hope it will help you in your online business journey. I'll see you in my next video.